welcome back to Hop, Skip and a Jump with Yaz from Yorkshire Peaches Therapies. On today's episode, we have the wonderful Charlotte from Raybrook Vet Physiotherapy. As you heard from the last time that Charlotte was with us, Charlotte is our in-house physiotherapy expert here at Yorkshire Peaches Therapies. On today's episode, we talk about what it's like working in the animal industry and some of the challenges that we face as animal therapists. So I'll cut to the chase. Let's jump straight into that conversation. So you've been qualified now for, is it a year you've been qualified?
So I've been qualified for over a year. I think it's about 2.5 years that I've been qualified.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, but I didn't set up until a little bit after, because obviously I know we had the pandemic and stuff going on. So I thought I'd just leave it a while. And obviously there's a lot of things that go into actually setting up. Like I didn't want to launch and not have a website and things like that. So I wanted to get everything sort of ready and organised before I jumped into it. Yeah.
So from so when you were at university, so obviously your technical knowledge around dogs will be it'll be far superior to mine. We look at dogs differently, even though we're working on the same animal. Do you think that uni prepped you well enough on how to enter the arena of the animal industry from a business perspective? Did you feel prepared?
I think in terms of like with communicating with other professionals, I think certainly they had a great a way of integrating that into the course. But I think in terms of actual business models, we sort of did a little bit, but there wasn't like a lot. I mean, I'm not really a business person myself anyway. Like when it comes to money, I'm just like, oh, don't talk to me. But yeah, from a business perspective, I would say probably not so much. But in terms of like actually being a setup as a professional on day dot, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because I think when I see other like physios and stuff on Instagram, like the content they're putting out is really good quality content, but it sometimes feels like they don't know how to market themselves, and they almost like I can't. It's like it reminds me of when I first started out. So I've been doing this, I've been qualified 5 years, I think it is. And when I first started, it was the year before the pandemic. So I think I qualified in the December. So I only had like a month or two, and then it was in March, everything's kind of started shutting down. So it was in that time space, I had to diversify the business and go, right, I need to do something online. And I remember going to an online lecture with she's a Pilates instructor, but she's is it NLP, like life coach sort of thing. And she did this free webinar for women in business and how to do your business online. And I remember like I was in my pajamas and I was like, well, there's nothing I can be doing today because I can't work with dogs because COVID shut my business. And it was a friend of mine who said, come to this and see what you think. And that single hour webinar completely changed the trajectory of my business, where I would say that I probably do more online work than I do in clinic work at the moment. So that's where kind of you as Charlotte of Raybrook Physio kind of slot into Yorkshire Peaches Therapies, because what I was finding is that obviously I can't know everything. I don't know everything.
For sure.
And the dogs that come to see me, 90% of them are incredibly sensitive, and we take a lot of time to build up that repertoire. It's on neutral turf, so it's not coming into their home. It's so that kind of takes away a layer of stuff that they can potentially have issue with. And then I was finding, right, okay, I'm doing all this, but I need outside input. And that's kind of where you've come in and been working beautifully with my customers to give them that exercise prescription and just having a fresh set of eyes on a pain management plan. So where do you think then what's the thing that you enjoy about working online with these customers?
So I think working online, you still can build that relationship with the customers. Like I think it's you're just trying to put across what you want from them, which is just get the best out of the dog that you possibly can. And I think that's the key thing. the pet parent and myself as a professional, we both want the same goal. We both want to reach that same goal, which is the best for the dog. So I think with that combined goal, and as yourself, that's the goal for you and with your customers, I think that combined goal really sort of solidifies this type of relationship that you can have with the customer, and it being online. For sure.
And I think all of the pet parents that come to me that have been having sessions with you, they're just like, they're buzzing. They're absolutely buzzing about they like the plans, and it's just having that, again, that another voice in the conversation. And I think as an industry, that's something that we're lacking in, is this multidisciplinary approach. And we keep talking about it and how it's really good and how we need to improve it, but I find that it's very stagnant, like nothing's been done. Do you feel the same?
No, I feel exactly the same. Like, I went to a CPD day recently, and there was a mixture of therapists and nurses and vets. And actually, one of the lecturers asked a really good question. They were like, "Oh, show of hands of like how many vets are in the room." So the vet, obviously, they put up their hands, and then they said, "How many of you actually work with a therapist at the minute, like a physio or a hydro?" And it was really low.
Doesn't surprise me.
So I would be really interested to sort of know what vets are doing in terms of multimodal. Like, are they just being told multimodal is great, but then there's not actually any plans in place, sort of thing? Because obviously we know they're amazing, but they're so busy. So like, how can we start to integrate ourselves as professionals with the multimodal? Like, I'm obviously really keen to reach out to other professionals. Anyone wants a phone call, anyone wants a chat, I'm like, I'm here. Let's do that. Like, I'm really keen. But in terms of trying to get vets on board, it is more difficult. But I don't know whether it's just because they're busy, or I'm not sure.
I think it's a mixture of things. I don't think that let's do the corporate practices. I don't think there's a framework for helping a vet choosing a therapist, like, so outsourcing. I don't think there's a framework, and they think, oh, we've got to keep all the money in house. Let's just put the vet nurse on a day's CPD, and then we can say we offer physiotherapy. For me, I find it incredibly offensive that, you know, we can't do a day course and call ourselves a nurse. Why we have to respect that different disciplines add in different positives to a case. Now, when I was at Vocon, I went to a lecture with I cannot remember her name, but I remember her being Geordie, and she did a lecture about, so she's a human physiotherapist working in a hospital. And she was saying, like, when she first started, it was unheard of that the physios would talk to the orthopedic surgeons. Like, it just didn't happen, right? But now, the way that it looks in that particular hospital is that I think they had like weekly meetings, and the surgeons would be asking for the physio's opinion on whether or not they thought that this person would be a good candidate for surgery, how they've been doing post-operatively. So it's happened in the human field, right? So what can we take from the human field? And I think the main thing for me is when I went to the doctor, and I think I'd pulled my wrist, and my knee wasn't brilliant either. And I thought, oh, you know, we've got a physical job, we have to kind of you know, and of course I left it 6 weeks. And I thought, yeah, that's not going. So I went and I spoke to the doctor, and I said, look, you know, this is happening. They did like a couple of little checks, and they went, right, what we're going to do is we're going to refer you straight through to physio. This is They didn't profess to know everything. And they had the framework in place to refer me to someone, which was a physio, to help me get the sessions in, to help strengthen the areas that were weak. So where's that kind of smooth, linear kind of process with the vets? It's just not there. And I think the first there's lots of different governing bodies.
Yeah.
So I think it can get a little bit complicated
Yeah.
from that front. I mean, God, this was years ago. I saw a quotation marks hydrotherapy centre that was part of a governing body, and I was like, I've never heard of that governing body before. I mean, really clever marketing tool, but they'd created their own governing body. And they were the only members of said governing body. I mean, talk about bias. I mean, I am very passionate about talking about working with professionals that are part of independent governing bodies, because the vet doesn't have to worry that we are not suitably qualified, that we, haven't done our CPD, that we're not insured.
Yeah.
Because that's the governing body's job to check all of that. So it's about leaning into those. I mean, the ones that I can think of off the top of my head. So there's IAT, there's RAMP, there's IVARP, ACPAT is another one.
ACPAT, yeah.
You're part of a different one beginning with N. Which one are you?
NAVP, so the National Association of Physiotherapists, veterinary physiotherapists.
So some of those, so RAMP, I'm not eligible to be part of. Obviously, ACPAT, I'm not, and I think I'm eligible to be part of IVAR, but I'm with IAT. And looking at the two of them, they're pretty similar, dare I say. So I just went with IAT because they talked about photobiomodulation and Fatizo, and they had an affiliation with Balin. So I was like, these kind of align with me a little bit better. What made you choose your particular governing body? What was it that called out to you?
So usually, I mean, it was a case of on our course, they sort of spoke about the different governing bodies. Obviously, there are some governing bodies that I can't be a part of, so obviously leave those out. So ACPAT, for instance, you have to be a human physio first.
Really?
Yeah.
That's wild. That makes sense. What?
I know. Yeah, I know. So that's a separate thing in itself. So I couldn't join them because I haven't done anything human. So the big two ones for me was either the NAVP or ERVAP. They were two of the main ones that were spoken about. And I went with the NAVP a lot because they're very good at their communication. So if I ever needed any help or advice, like, I knew I'd get a response. Like, the last thing you want when you're setting up is to be part of a governing body that, you might be waiting weeks for a response. And that's sort of what I heard. And also as well to get the membership. I know a few people had mentioned like difficulties trying to get membership just because the lack of communication from that governing body. But that might have just been their experience. I'm not saying that's exactly what they're like, but from just what I heard from reviews from other people, I went with the NAVP, and to be fair, they've been really good. And whenever I've been able to speak to a vet, they've been perfectly happy with the fact that I'm part of the NAVP. They've seen that as a positive thing, and also it means people can claim on their insurance as well because I'm part.
That's a big one. Yeah, that is a big one. So for me, IAT, because I'm part of IAT, the most insurance companies, obviously I haven't sat and looked through every single insurance policy, but the big ones accept IAT therapists. IAT are really good with kind of like I think it's weekly emails of what's going on and like new CPDs. They're very good at promoting the therapists within their governing body. So when I launched my book, Your Dog's Pain Diary, that is now, that is something that went on circulation to their mailing list, and then they were happy to promote it, and as well the variety of different CPDs that they offer. So some of it, I mean, but they're affordable. So some of them, can be quite expensive. You're like, you're looking like nearly £1,000, but some of them it's like 20 quid. Good for an evening to talk about x-rays. I'm like, yes, please sign me up. Thank you very much.
People don't realise how expensive CPD can be.
Oh God, it's so expensive. And I don't want to actually know how much I've spent on CPD over
and
the years.
I'm not saying we shouldn't pay for it. What I'm saying is I don't think people appreciate how much we do spend on it. It is an investment, and especially as someone being self-employed, you have to factor that into your overall costs, because it is a massive part of your costs.
And going to conventions as well, or that is,
Just networking as well, networking with other people.
Yeah, networking, seeing what when I go to conferences or anything like that, I'm looking for the most up to date. That's what I'm going for. I want to know what is fresh. So that I'm trying to think what I've been to. I think the best, like the hands down best conference I've ever been to today was the International Association for Veterinary Rehabilitation Therapists. I've got their blanket in this room. I've got their mug in the cupboard. It's IVARPed, I think, and they held it in Cambridge. It'll be 4 years ago because they just did that because it's biannual. They've just done it in South Africa, so I went to the one that was in Cambridge, and the content was absolutely phenomenal. Now, don't get me wrong, it was an expensive do. But what I got out of those 2 days, plus the additional lectures, so they had an equine stream and a canine stream, which I really appreciated, because I think sometimes canine therapists can get lumped in with the equine therapists. So I'm like, it's not like, it's interesting to listen to, and I do listen to some equine stuff. Because there is going to be a little bit, there is going to be that crossover. But for me, I want to go listen to predominantly exclusively dog lecture. So the year that I went, there was my days, Professor Martin Fisher, who did Dogs in Motion. So it was via an online online call, but like the way that they'd set it up, like the auditorium, like this place was set up for having big speaking events on. So that was a fantastic lecture. I went to another lecture with Dr. Helen Cohen, I think she was called. She is a specialist from London King's College Hospital, so working with humans in rheumatology and looking at hypermobility. And hers was like a little extra session you could pay for in the morning. So it started at 7:30, and you bet your bottom dollar I got my ass out of bed to go listen to this hypermobility lecture. And that has completely changed the trajectory of my understanding of hypermobility, and also my interest in it as well. And then obviously Rodney has then gone on to be diagnosed with hypermobility. So it was the richness of the lecturers that they brought to the table. There was Professor Kiki Hausler. She's do you know her? She's German.
She wrote a few papers.
Yes, on gait analysis, objective gait analysis. So just the richness of the lectures provided. Like David Levine was there, Daryl Millis was there, and it was it was chef's kiss. I just came away absolutely buzzing after. Absolutely buzzing.
And I think that's an important thing about the governing bodies as well, because as a vet physio, we don't have to be part of a governing body, and we don't have to be insured either. So you want to make sure that somebody is part of a governing body and is insured if you're going to find a therapist, because the governing bodies ensure that we do CPD as well. It's part of the conditions of our membership, so it's really, really important.
Course it is. And I think as well, like the hours that are needed, so that will vary. I haven't checked IATS, but usually I'm like 4 times over what the requirements are, because I'm constantly learning. And I think across the board with therapists, that's how it should be. Science is ever changing, ever evolving, and we have to keep up to date with it, as much as we can. So for me, that'll be like things in nutrition, but mainly it's pain. That's the kind of thing. If I could pick kind of one thing that I love to focus on, it would be pain. What's your one thing that you like to focus on?
Oh, no, that's a tricky question. It's a tricky question because there's so much that I'm interested in. I mean, I absolutely love finding out about new pharmacological interventions. Obviously, I know my place as a vet physio, I cannot recommend changing medications or anything like that. But what I can do is I can have an overview of what that dog is currently on. And from my perspective, from my assessments that I make, I can try and figure out whether I think that pain management is working for that dog. And that usually, on my perspective, includes pharmaceuticals. So it's just trying to find what works best for that individual dog, because every single dog is an individual.
Yes.
You know that, I know that.
Mhm.
Every professional should know that. So what works for
Should.
one should know that.
Should be the operative word there. But
Yeah.
no, like I 100% agree with you. Even though we can't prescribe anything and we can't, you know, recommend dosage changes or anything like that, is 100% what a vet needs to be discussing. But that doesn't stop pet parents asking questions, asking opinions, asking how it works. How does it work?
Exactly.
So I think, yeah, absolutely, having a background knowledge of just, you know, because if you're, say you're working with a dog hip dysplasia, it's always the one that I go to because it's the one that I deal with the most. But you're looking at musculoskeletal pain for starters. So NSAIDs, that's your non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. So that is a combination of pain relief and anti-inflammatories. So you've got that. But if you've got nerve pain associated with that, an NSAID potentially isn't going to be the best fit. You might need something like gabapentin mixed in. And I would say to people, like, just because the NSAID hasn't been fantastic for you, don't write it off yet. It may be that we need support from a different branch of medication in order to create that well-rounded cocktail, for want of a better word. But it's helping pet parents kind of look objectively at, or as objectively as possible, at what they're giving their dogs, so they can say about their experiences, be able to, you know, collate those thoughts and then present that back to the vet, because at the end of the day, it's the vet who's then going to pick it up and go, right, okay, let me go and think, let me go and see what else we can be adding into this mix. Or, you know, even things like time of dosage is so important.
So important. And I think it's sometimes things that, obviously, we know vets, they have a very limited time and appointments, and everything can't be spoken about. And I really pride myself on, in my appointments, to help the pet parent really feel like they're being supported, and that they know that they're making the best decision for their dog. And from my point of view as a vet physio, obviously a lot of what I do is rehab as well from post-op, and our main priority is pain. So we're ensuring that we're managing pain as best we can. That's my number one. That's my number one. If I've got the SMART goals, which we can talk about,
that's in the book.
You know what I mean? The SMART goals. Your top one is we're managing pain, because at the end of the day, the quality of the life of the animal, that is what we're trying to improve, and pain management is up there, and it's probably why we get along so well as well, because it's something that I'm keen about. But I think the role that pharmaceuticals can play is something that I think a lot of pet parents, they don't think about too often. They just go, oh, okay, my vet's prescribed this, that's fine, or they don't have the time in the appointment to actually discuss the different types that you can go for, and also obviously as well, like things like stem cells and things like that. They are amazing, and what works for one dog might not work for another. But if a pet parent is able to get something like stem cells or the other sort of PRP and things like that, I think it's really important that the pet parent is supported in that decision, and
it's about informed decision making.
For sure,
knowing what your options are. I always say I provide the buffet, and you pick what's best for your dog. I never tell anyone, like, you know, this is what is going to be right for your dog, because the only person that knows that is the pet parent themselves.
For sure.
But it's about listening to all these different voices and taking what you need from each voice. You know, I always say, don't take every single word I say as gospel. You need to have input from various different outlets. The thing that I'm cautious of is things like Facebook groups, social media posts and things like that. Can be very scaremongery, but it's just, you know, look at the source where that information is coming from. Is it someone who's suitably qualified to be discussing said thing? Is it someone that is you know, actually working in the industry and is seeing what this, potential drug or this new intervention is doing. One of my favorite sayings is opinions are like arseholes. Everyone's got one, but you don't need to see mine. It's I wish there was a more PG version than that, but there isn't.
We'll have to try and find one, but
we'll have to try and find one. But when you do your podcast, you need to boot up a podcast, and we'll find a non-sweary version of that. But I think for me, it's about that informed decision making, and as well, it's about one of my more common things that I come across in clinics. So obviously, I am I'm well known for my passion about species appropriate feeding, natural intervention for our dogs. So I think with that, it has brought a certain group of pet parents who align with me, who then have a fear of pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
And I suppose my job is to say, listen, right, all these supplements, what you're doing with the diet, what you're doing with massage, what you're doing with physio, what you're doing with the teaser, absolutely phenomenal. Really great. Love it. Yeah. However, there's other things that we can be looking at, and people go, oh, no, I can't hear you. And I go, listen, right, if we're dealing with palliative care, why are we so concerned about protecting the liver and kidney health of a 14-year-old dog?
Yeah.
Because it's not going to be the liver and kidneys that take them.
Yeah.
It will be because they can't walk.
Yeah. I mean, we know there's a stat. What is it like?
That's the leading cause of euthanasia.
Yes, it's like 80% is it 80%? Something like that. Like,
it's a big number.
It's a massive
loss
number.
Of mobility is the leading cause of elective euthanasia.
Yeah. And when you think about that, like it is mind-blowing, because there's so much that we can do, but I think pet parents, they do have to recognize that pharmaceuticals are going to be a part. Most likely at some point.
Absolutely, and that's okay. So if we have, obviously it's different if the dog is in end stage kidney disease. There's different things that we can be trying instead of NSAIDs, but that's a conversation for them to be having with the vet to make sure that whatever they're prescribing matches what they've got. But if we've got fairly decent liver and kidney tests that have come back, blood tests that have come back, trial the NSAID, see if it makes a difference. I'm thinking about a dog that comes to see me in clinic, and he started trotting on walks again, and she was like, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. And I said, right, okay, so we know that it's very, very likely that he's going to have to stay on this now.
Yeah.
So what we can do is already raw fed. I was like, support the liver and kidneys. If we look at it from a naturopathic point of view, we need to be curing like with like. So we feed liver and kidney. Make sure that's in the diet, preferably organic if we can get it, so it helps support that liver and kidney health.
And I think that's another thing about trying to get on board with pet parents and supporting them, is trying to say, look, you might have to add in these pharmaceuticals, but we can support the body through that. There's so many things that we can do to try and support the body and help them. For sure.
What do you think then? Right, okay, here's a question for you. What do you think is the most overhyped supplement? Without saying brand names, what do you think is the most overhyped thing? I know, right? I don't want to get a
brand name right at you.
You can say it if you make it rhyme.
Do you know what? Actually, I'm going to go rogue. I'm going to say salmon oil.
Ooh.
The amount of people that I know, especially natural feeders, pet parents, a lot of them will add, a few pumps of salmon oil on, and they're like, oh, great. And I'm like, ooh.
I said, whoa, we love those rancid omega-3s.
I mean, try and talk about the oxidation process. Obviously, a lot of pet parents might just go, whoop. But if you try and say to them, as soon as you're opening, say, that bottle, for instance, it's going to have the opposite effect. And then they go, oh. It
becomes pro-inflammatory.
It becomes pro-inflammatory. And so obviously
just
we know.
Smell it stinks.
I mean, I was lucky that I was able to I got the information that I needed prior to when all the salmon oil was a big thing, I know that feeding fresh fish for Kiva, that's going to be the best thing for him.
Yeah.
And I know obviously some people feeding fresh fish isn't an option. And I know you've got a wonderful blog on tinned fish.
Yes, wonderful blog on tinned fish.
And think about it, you can get tinned fish from your local supermarket if you need to.
And
you don't need to go
cost effective as well. Yeah. It's you know, just chuck that in the trolley and you're on to good one. But it's about making those informed decisions about which fish we pick off the shelf.
Yeah,
keep it small and keep it out of oil, and that's your best. That's but that blog is on my website, and I've got a PDF about it as well.
But I think that's a great one because it is so accessible to pretty much every pet parent.
I think because I'm Yorkshire, and tight, I want to make sure that the things I'm recommending are as cost effective and actually effective as possible. And when I do talk about, say, supplements that are high ticket items or equipment that is high ticket, know that I'm saying it because it you are getting bang for your buck with it, with how effective it is. So Antinol is, I mean, obviously I've got an affiliation with them, but I've been talking about Antinol for years. So it's, and I'm very, so I suppose this kind of comes back to my branding as a business and who I align with and who, the companies I will talk about. What you'll find is that I don't talk about what I don't like. I just promote the companies that I do.
And that's why when you said like what's overhyped, I'm like, oh, because I'm the same as you. I like to promote things that I know are good and know that I worked, things that I've tested for my own dog.
Same.
So when someone's like, what don't you recommend, I'm like, oh. But
because I know that there is a big joint supplement brand called, let me think, Shoe Hoove. Shoe Hoove is a very big supplement company, and does it have its place? I think it does have its place.
I think if it was cheaper, it would have its place. But I think at the price that it is, I don't think it has a place.
It's
because
not
you can get
you
can get such better quality product for
and
your
higher
money.
potency as
and
well.
higher potency.
But I suppose the thing with Shoe Hoove is that it's got the clinical trials behind it. It's got the clinical trials, and I think that if a vet is studying their appointment and the pet parent goes, what do I supplement with, that is we know that it's safe and effective.
I was going to say it's better than nothing.
It's better than nothing. If you're going to do nothing else and just you want to put a single tablet or whatever into the food bowl, it costs more because it's not very time consuming. So you can pop that in. However, if you have the time to research and look at your other options, there is far better value for money, and the value for money being the ticket item. So the price of that said item is on par with the ingredients level and the cleanliness of those ingredients and So it does have its place. I don't personally recommend it because I know a million more other things that are more effective. And sometimes we fall into that trap, don't we, of going, well, it's the most expensive one, so it must be the best. No,
not the case.
Just have a look at the pet food industry, and then we can circle back round to that.
I mean, just touching back on Antinol, they've got studies, don't they?
They do indeed have studies. They I'm sure Duncan Lascelles has used their products. I'll have to go back on the case on the studies again, but Antinol, it's the way it's harvested that I really like. I met them at that amazing conference in Cambridge. That was the first time that I met Antinol, and I'd already been talking about it now. I'd already been recommending it before I met them, and it was having that opportunity to have a discussion about the product and about how they harvest it. So it's within 2 hours, of harvesting the green lip mussels, it's processed, and it's not heat treated either.
Yeah.
As soon as you heat treat it, it's going to change those omega fatty acid chains.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be as effective if you heat treat it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking for, in my opinion, the market's kind of most potent, cost-effective green lip mussel, Ansell's going to be right at the top of the tower.
Yeah.
If we start to come down the rungs of the ladder, we've got green lip mussel powder. So Rioflex do a really good one. Annie Forte do a good one as well. Is there anyone else that springs to mind with the powder?
There's a few different ones, isn't there? But I'm just trying to think in terms of quality. I mean, those are the top two that I tend to recommend.
Yeah, because I trust their branding as well.
Yeah.
I trust the brand of Rioflex, and I trust Annie Forte as well. You've then got Kanumi, so they're the green lip mussels in a tin.
Yeah.
So your dog has to have a bit of a palate for seafood to enjoy something.
I
like
mean,
that.
Kiba obviously being a Samoyed, he goes mad for them. Absolutely mad. It's like the first thing that he'll take. But yeah, your dog does have to have a palate for it.
Yeah, because it's very strong. It's very strong. It's it's a strong taste, isn't it?
Yeah.
I imagine. I mean, it stinks.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to think what other ones you've got on the market with green. Like there's there's some products. So like Natural, their forage mix that they do. That it doesn't have green lip mussel in it. I'm sure it's blue mussel.
I'm pretty sure the Paleo Plus range has green lip mussel in.
Yes, it does. It has blueberry. It's called Berry Plus, and they have blueberries and green lip mussel in. So that's like another one. So if you've got a raw feeding customer, like the Paleo Berry Plus or the Natural Forage range, you know, if you just kind of defrost it, pop it into ice cube molds, that's a way that you can be adding it in, plus all the other good stuff that they've added in as well. I'm trying to think of any others that I can't think of any other green lip mussel. Oh, you can get dehydrated green lip mussel.
Oh yeah, you can get dehydrated.
Mr. Bones, I think it's called.
Mr. Bones does them, and I think they do they've made it into a sprinkle as well, like a food topper.
It's just adding in that little, supercharging that bowl. There was another one. What am I thinking of? Green lip mussel. It'll come to me. Oh, I'm gonna get so cross because I'll remember it in like 4 hours' time. I'm like, damn it! But yeah, green lip mussel has to be one of my most favoritist. One of my most favoritist.
Yeah. And I don't think we can really talk about joint supplements as well without mentioning bone broth.
Oh my God, love me some bone broth.
We love the bone broth.
We love bone broth. So I'm a big Carnlia fan. You're a big Axel's Paws. Is Axel's Paws? Or
it's just Axel's, just Axel's, yeah.
Just Axel's. So your bone broth it's frozen into bone chips, but they add in some really nice kind of like herbs. I think one of them's got nettle in.
Yeah, it's got like all those added little bits that if you think, oh, if I added those separately, that would actually be quite a lot, but they're very convenient that it's just all in one and you can just pop it out the freezer and in the bowl. And obviously, if your dog doesn't like frozen things, you can defrost it and things like that. That's absolutely fine.
You reuse the molds as well?
So I've reused the molds. They're great to reuse. And as I said,
branding as well.
They're really nice branding, and the packaging as well. It's really thin.
Yes, so stacked nice in the freezer.
So stacking in the freezer, and even people with not much freezer space, you could just slide one in. Yeah, perfect.
Jobs are good in, and they've got are they all single source protein as well? I think
so. There's one that isn't, and that's the buffalo. That's got beef in.
Right, okay.
But the rest are single source protein, which is great for a lot of people, especially for Kiba as well. He can't have beef and chicken, so he really enjoys the single proteins. Yeah,
nice. So those are like your freezer options, and then for me, I've got Carnlia, so they're like shelf stable single source proteins. They've got fish, chicken, lamb, and beef in their range, and they've just brought out a range of single source ingredient supplements as well. So things like your pumpkin powder, your goat's milk. The latest one's goat's milk with added pre, pro, and postbiotics in. So, and as well, I really like the branding. I just really like the brand. Obviously, I am affiliated with them.
Yeah.
Again, I think about them for ages, but I think another brand as well of, say, frozen bone broth is your Alexander's Naturals. That's been going for years and years and years. Again, another nice one for single source proteins. But
they do kefir as well, don't they?
Yeah, the banana one. They've got like a pina colada one. I've been, fortunate enough to go into their factory, and it's absolutely immaculate. And I had great fun at pouring. I think it was strawberry kefir pours that I did. I know, but it's hard, getting them all, making sure that it's all right.
I struggle when I'm trying to put my bone broth into the molds. It's just everywhere. But I have learned though, if you put them on a tray beforehand, a lot easier to get into the freezer.
You clever sausage. Why have I never thought of that? Oh my days, that would make so much sense. That makes so much sense. Because I'm like that going into the garage, like trying to get into the garage. But it's nice though. Like I've done all sorts of things with bone broth. I mean, years ago, was it bone broth that I did it with? No, this was. Do you remember? This was years and years and years ago. I did something called mini muscle milkshakes. Do you remember? So I did. I went to the fishmongers. It wasn't me that went to the fishmongers. It was a friend of mine who went, and she got me. No, absolutely not. She got me some green lip mussels and like de-shelled them all for me and froze them. So, because I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. So I got all these green lip mussels and I blended them with chamomile tea. And it absolutely, oh my god, it stunk so bad though, mate. It stunk so bad. But I made them in little shot glasses and fried because I had so many. I think I put some in ice cube molds and then I ended up putting some in shot glasses that I found in the cupboard. But it's just, I do miss doing kind of like daft stuff.
I think it's important to know that you don't have to do those things. I mean, as well though, if people are looking for like cost effective, you can make your own bone broth.
Yes, and I've made. Let me think. How many times I've only made my own bone broth less than 5 times, probably.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. It is obviously trying to balance up the fact that time. And money as well. But if you are looking at a cost-effective method, making your own, piece of piss.
Yeah, and it's the cheapest as well. It's the and you can get some really weird and wonderful bones to make that bone broth.
Yeah,
so
I know. Obviously, Steph's got buffalo stuff in it sometimes, and they're like, ooh.
Yeah, well, it's
fancy.
Dog's Butcher. I think they do alpaca bones.
Yeah, they do alpaca as well.
So if you really wanted to get fancy with making your own bone broth, you can do that.
And obviously, dogs that are on exclusion diets, then you've got bone broth as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And as well with I was going to say then about the bone broth. Can't remember, it's gone now. I made for my food energetics course. I had to make it was called hoof soup. So it was an energetically balanced bone broth. And I went to is it a continental supermarket? Is that I think that's the right name? And I had to get things like tapioca and all these weird and wonderful herbs, and they had these bones that still had synovial fluid coming out of them. So like actual capsules that they'd cut.
Like to me, I'm like, ooh, but most people that's probably like, oh. But for me, I'm like synovial fluid, and I'm like, oh, go on.
And I think I put turnips in it as well, or something like that. But that was, I call it my bougie bone broth. That one. So that's on my YouTube. You'll be able to have a look at that on YouTube if you wanted to follow the recipe. Do you know what though? I really enjoyed making it.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed making it, and I do wish I had more time to do those kind of like fun things again. But at the moment, I just don't have the time to do it. Probably at Christmas, I'll do. Like I think last Christmas, I made these. I had fresh mint that I'd grown myself in the garden, and I got a punnet of cranberries from like Marks and Spencer's, only because it was on a yellow label. Got to get it cheap, haven't you? So I boiled them up and like mashed it all together with the mint and just like put him into ice cube bowls and just chuck it at the dogs. I mean, to be fair, my dogs would eat a gravy bone if I chucked it at them. But like, I get I get a dopamine hit watching them eat.
Yeah,
Do you get that as well?
No, I get that as well, 100%. Like my partner will, he'll say to me, he's like, I don't know what you get from it, and I'm like, just seeing him enjoy his food. My dog Kiba, seeing him enjoy it. Because before, when I first got him, he was unfortunately on a very well-known dry food that's very heavily marketed, and he just wasn't keen.
No.
And he was losing weight pretty rapidly. So yeah, once I discovered the fresh feeding and any little bits, he has the, the little tappy feet dance, and it's just nice to see. Yeah, it's nice to see him enjoy his food for sure.
Yeah. My dog, I mean, they absolutely, oh my days, they love their food. But I remember when I first started feeding raw and Rodney like sniffed the bowl. I think it was definitely Dog's Butcher. I remember that. It might have been, was it duck? I can't remember now. And he tried to roll in it, you know, like they do if they find a bit of cocktail. And he like tried to roll in this food. It's like he had absolutely no concept of what it was.
Yeah.
And now I look back and think, oh, you poor bugger. But like now, oh my days, he'll eat anything I put in front of him. Peggy as well. Like the only thing as a collective, they all said, I'm not eating that, was it was minced wood pigeon with feathers.
Oh, see, like Kiba, he actually eats that.
Does
he? I was surprised about. I mean, it's difficult to get hold of now because all the bird flu and stuff.
Yeah, it used to be a brand called Dog and Bone, I think it was.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It was very chunky. I remember it being a very chunky mince.
I remember I used to get it from the Dog's Butcher. That's who I used to get it from, and it was really nice mince. But obviously, the bird flu hit, and it's not been there for a while. But yeah, it is quite a strong flavour. But that's how much Kiba loves his raw. He'll eat pigeon.
Yeah, because it's a very gamey sort of,
very gamey,
rich, isn't it? And then I remember one time I was asked to write an article for Gundog Journal. This was years and years and years ago when I tried to get the Gundog community to acknowledge that their dogs have feelings and maybe need, like drying off in between drives. But hey-ho. And I went out on a day's beating. Just to see the dogs working and see, right, okay, what can I write about to help encourage said audience? And I ended up coming home from this shoot with 2 pheasants, 2 ducks, and a rabbit. And I came in and I like put it on the side in the kitchen, and Adam went, absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
I am not been involved in this. You know how much hard work it is butchering an animal and stripping it all down. Oh,
I love that phrase. I'm not getting involved. I'm not getting involved.
Because then he did get involved because I was nearly crying because I was like, my shoulders are killing me. But when I was trying to like cut the duck's head off, I like lined it up and looked away because I couldn't watch it. But I was like, freshly butchered. This has been, shot today, kids. You know, try this. Would they eat? Would they eat it? No. I had to freeze it, then they'd eat it.
Then they do. That's the thing, sometimes with the all it takes is freezing, and then they're like, do you know what? Yeah, okay, I'll try it.
I do recognise it as food. But they loved it, like the duck legs and stuff, and it was beautiful, absolutely beautiful, beautiful food for them. But they wouldn't eat it. Freshly butchered, they wouldn't eat it. The joys of raw feeding. But
have dogs, they said.
It's so much fun, they said. Well, listen, Charlotte, we have been waffling for nearly an hour now, and we have covered many a topic. And I'm sure we will cover many more topics when we have you back in a couple of weeks. So thank you so much for joining me today on Hop, Skip and a Jump. Where can people find you on Instagram, Facebook, and your website?
So if you just type in Raybrook Veterinary Physiotherapy, that will come up on my Facebook. On Instagram, it's raybrook.vetphysio, and I'll have my link tree as well, where you can go to my website.
Superstar. Thank you so much for joining us today, Charlotte. It's always great having Charlotte on the podcast, and we will be hearing a lot more from her because this is just a snippet of the things that we get to discuss. I'm very privileged and honoured to be working alongside dedicated pet professionals, and I hope on today's episode, if there's any therapists out there listening, know that you are not alone. We all have those tough days, but it's about making sure that you have a good support network around you to get the best out of your client cases, but also to look after you as well. If we run out of spoons and we're not looking after ourselves properly or have that support network around us, we're going to burn out pretty quick. So just a little reminder, you're doing great and I'm super duper proud of you, and there's always someone to have a natter to, so do reach out if you are struggling. You don't need to do this alone. For now, lots of love to you and your dogs, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care. Bye.